Hi, me again. Right, so for the past few weeks really have been quite up and down, and there's a load to cover. But I'm going to sort of break it week by week, and today is going to be more on the gaming element of it all. Because one of the things that you may have noticed is I am a big gamer. One of the big things to come out recently was Dungeon Keeper has been sort of revamped, I guess, and reissued as a mobile game using the classic sort of free-to-play, but not really. Because if you're not familiar with stuff like Clash of Clans and a lot of other games, to be honest, that have come out with that same kind of model, it's basically you start playing and you generally get a nice little tutorial that gives you a lot of free stuff and a lot of quick access, and it's very boom boom boom, get you into the game, get you hooked. But the sort of core gameplay after the tutorial is very much either wait or pay real money to actually progress at a decent rate. Now, the problem with this is, of course, that's not really free to play. It's almost duplicitous, but on many of the sort of the Play Store and things like that, these days you do have a little disclaimer saying in-app purchases, so it's a bit less duplicitous, sadly, in a way. But that is unfortunately seemingly the way that the things are moving towards. That to get anywhere you have to pay. Now, before anyone's like, but I can choose not to pay. Well, yes, but you could wait 3 hours for one activity to process, as it were, which you are still paying, because if you go by the old axiom, time is money, then basically that's what you're kind of either paying in. You're choosing either, well, I'll wait 3 hours for that action to take place, or I will use gems or whatever else sort of is used as virtual currency, which will have been purchased by you, the gamer, the consumer, with actual real money, which in most circumstances you have already spent your time getting by working. So it's like almost catch-all kind of thing. It's literally you are paying in your time, just whether directly at that point or earlier. But that's a whole other story, perhaps for a different time. But the thing that really sort of gets it, is the fact that people will do this, and people haven't maybe complained so much in the past, with new concepts, such as as mentioned, sort of Clash of Clans and a host of copycat kind of games that have appeared. It's quite, well, makes me feel kind of old, really, to think that there are people who may have never actually played the original Dungeon Keeper, I say series, but those two games were very, very much fun. They build your lair, same in the mobile, and attack and defend using traps and various other resources available to you. Again, pretty similar. The problem is, in Bullfrog's PC game, really, you do have an easy way of getting more imps. It's very simple. More imps. Done. And they just go and do this stuff. It's brilliant. It's flawless. It's what it should be. Mobile, no, not so much. Buying a new imp takes quite a hefty amount of gems, which, even if you complete all elements of the tutorial, you still end up with far too little to actually even try making a decent purchase of gems. So everything's going to take longer. We don't want that. No. And I think, as I say, what has caused this backlash is that people have, or specifically EA, have taken a well-known property and basically saw dollar signs, really. That's exactly what's popped up. It's like their eyes, in cartoons when it's just ching ching. That's it. That's what they've done. And I think that's what people have mostly kind of gone off against with this, because it is such a well-known and well-loved franchise. Obviously, yes, like I say, there are people who've never played them because they're just too young, and like I said, that makes me feel horribly old. But it's a sad indication, that they're like, some people won't know better. I have played games with a similar model, where you can progress the really long and arduous route, or you can buy augmentations. That's not to say cheating. It's, well, I suppose it is in a way. It's debatable, but it's whether you value, having a quick 5 minutes, or kind of going, well, I was going to have a quick 5 minutes, but I'm not able to do anything for the next half an hour now. But what that also got me thinking about was AAA titles. And unfortunately, gamers have done it to themselves on this one, more than perhaps the other side. At least in my perception. Because as more AAA titles get released, people kind of go, oh, that's good, and then another one comes up, then there's always got to be that raising the bar. Sort of that they've always got to kind of compete against what the last big hit was. And that just basically means it keeps ramping up. What also ramps up are development costs. So, when you go out and you pay, say, £40, £50 or $60, whatever, it may be in your territory, as it were, no longer are people getting a full game, in a way. I mean, obviously, you can still play through what you get, but you suddenly get a whole horde of DLC, like different character skins sometimes, which are completely non-essential, granted, and that's fine, that's an optional payment, and I have no objection to that. But when story elements come out, it's like, well, why wasn't that part of the game? Why couldn't you have had that as a part of it? Older games would have had more play content. I did see a comment, I think, on Kotaku's little sort of comments discussion section of someone saying sort of about side quests and things these days pretty much not optional, because otherwise you're just going to not have anything to play. And it's almost like people go, oh, side quests. Yeah, if side quests weren't there, 4 hours of gameplay. Side quests there, 60 hours of gameplay. And it's like they're padding as much as possible, but that's to keep the costs down for you, the consumer. And it's a very tricky road, and a very tricky balance to try and get. And it is unfortunate, but it does mean that the consumer does arguably have to pony up a little more. I have actually been in discussions with a number of people, including an indie developer, because of course with indie developers they're not competing with the AAA titles, so the pressure of a certain graphical level is pretty much guaranteed not to be there, and even the odd gameplay flaws, he was saying, can be forgiven. That's a paraphrase, but that's pretty much what he said. Without that pressure, and it does kind of make indie games a more viable market. Of course, it requires people to be looking for that. So these people who are just like, if it doesn't have, a certain manufacturer's name on it, I ain't getting it. If it doesn't have Ubisoft and like for the Assassin's Creed series or whatever else, then I'm not touching it, and that's a very sad state of affairs. But as I say, it's why I've perhaps always been a bit of a supporter of the underdog, but particularly in the games market, the indie developers are really where it's at now, to have the gameplay quality over the need for graphical panache. I would prefer to play something that was well thought out, well designed, interested me, didn't require me to spend half again to get more that could have potentially been in the original game. I would prefer to be in that position of just spending once and getting something that may be a little flawed, but kept to its core. It did what it should do, and that's entertain, whilst not taking advantage of the person on the other side. You know, if I go to a gig and I ask every member of audience for £10 every time they enjoyed a song, that's basically one way of looking at it. I don't ask for that because that's taking advantage of them. Some would do it. People have kind of gone, how much are you getting paid for this? I bet it's not enough. Here, have some more money. People have done it. Seriously. You get obviously people buying drinks for you, and that's normal. That's kind of a low level. Anyone will accept that. But when someone is physically kind of saying, "Take more of my money," you know that they've really enjoyed it, and this is why the ability to perhaps donate further to a company is better. You know, this is why Kickstarter programs are useful in some way, and early access, you know, where you can at least try the betas and the alphas before final release. So all is not lost just yet, but just remember that you're the one who makes the final say. So go forth, buy indie, make the big guys try and think of a different model. You know, yes, there are people there who need to eat and live, fine, but so do you. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Boom.